Hey, it's Mike over at Cross Country Mortgage. It's Monday morning, and it's time for your Monday morning mortgage update for the week of August the 12th. So I just try to give you tools, tips, tactics, things that you can use when you go out and talk to your buyers and sellers to have more impactful conversations. We talk about the previous week, what happened, how'd the week end, and then we're going to talk about the week coming. What's going to impact those mortgage rates? What's going to impact the market? So let's talk about last week. We had a great run up to last week, and then last week rates came down. And I want to show you the charts because it's so interesting, the volatility we've had, and explain to you why we're seeing this. So remember the week before last, we saw rates get better. On Friday, a lot of jobs reports came out that said that the economy was weak. And then we started last week on Monday off in a really good spot, but you can see that we lost all the gains in pricing, not in the rate, but in pricing that we gained on that one day on Friday. So it took all week to eliminate the gains that we had on Friday. We're still up over the last couple of weeks. So why did this happen? And I've been talking about this. There's so many things that affect mortgage rates, that affect the market. Geopolitical, inflation, numbers on the economy, what Fed members say, all of this and many, many more things. All of this has impact. And we've just seen this volatility. Now, let me give you some context. I show you this graph all the time. If you haven't seen it in a while, it is the trading of mortgage-backed securities in the bond market. We know that when we see the graph go up, that means money's flowing into the bond market and mortgage rates are coming down. When we see the graph go down, we know that money's flowing out of the bond market and mortgage-backed securities are trading less and mortgage rates are going up. So prior to last week, we saw a really nice run up in the MBS market and mortgage rates came down. Then last week, again, money left and mortgage rates got a little worse. So the reason is because one of those economic data points that came out showed that manufacturing was up. The businesses are actually starting to make stuff, which means a stronger economy. When we see strength in the economy or signs of strength or reports or data that shows strength, even if it's small, money typically flows out of the bond market. But then we have all this other stuff that's impacting the market that causes all this volatility, the red and the green and the red of the green. And I'm showing you this graph. I want to go actually out a year to show you all the volatility. It's so hard to predict interest rates. When somebody calls and says, what's the rate? Well, do you want today's rate or tomorrow's rate? Because we really don't know where rates are going to be the next day. And unless somebody's actually in contract or they're refinancing their loan and they want the rate locked, it's just a guess on what rates are actually going to be when they need to lock that interest rate. We all get money from the same people, but this graph, this trading of mortgage-backed securities and all its volatility is what lenders use when they determine the rates they're going to quote a buyer and on every day, every morning when these rates come out. So when we see these rates come out that are quoted online or somebody gives an incredibly low rate, we have to put this in context and realize that unless that rate's locked, it's going to change. I wanted to also show you really what we have been through since October of 2023. We've seen a nice improvement in rates, then a flattening, then a worsening flattening. But overall, since October 2023, when rates were over 8%, we're actually in a much better place and we're definitely trending up. I kind of compare what rates are going to do in the future to skiing down a mogul hill. We're going to see that those rates trickle down and bumps along the way. And what we saw last week really was a bump. We saw an improvement the prior week, then we saw a big sell-off, and we started today on that Monday actually with a slight improvement. So let's talk about what's going to happen this week. What are we looking at that's going to affect the market? Really three things: inflation, geopolitical, and then Fed member speak. So inflation, we know, is the number one reason that mortgage rates are low. And until inflation starts to come down, until it gets under control, the Fed's not going to lower the rate. They have been very, very clear. The Federal Reserve said they are not going to cut the rate until they start to see signs and data that inflation is getting under control. So two reports coming out this week: the Consumer Price Index and the Producers Price Index, the CPI, Consumer Price Index. What are we all paying for stuff? And the PPI is what are manufacturers paying to make stuff, okay, to buy materials. Wednesday's the big day this week. CPI is coming out. It's expected to go up a little bit. Again, not coming down, not going up drastically like it's been, expected to go up a little bit. If it hits expectations, not much of a change to rate. If it's below expectations, we're going to see money dump into the bond market, and we're going to see rates get better. So hopefully we'll see that CPI come down a little bit. Geopolitical, Middle East, this is a big issue. So this isn't this isn't data points on the economy and what the economy is doing in inflation. This is a lot of unrest in the Middle East. Iran says they're going to respond in a big way. Serbia is now bombing Russia, and US is moving ships and subs in that area. Just a lot of unrest, a lot of uncertainty. And when we see this, if there's a big escalation over there this week, we're going to see a lot of money dumped into the bond market and mortgage rates get better. Again, an escalation of things. If Iran, which they didn't do last week, says, hey, we're going to go in a big way. If they do that, because they didn't do it last week, then we'll see rates get better. Why? Because with all this unrest, this uncertainty, you're going to see investors, foreign investors, park their money in our bond market. It's called a flight to safety. They're going to forego gains in the stock market or potential gains in the stock market and put the money in a safe place that is longer term returns and lower returns in the bond market. That's going to impact mortgage rates in a positive way. So obviously we don't want to see escalation. Hopefully cooler heads prevail. But if that happens, we'll see rates get better. The last thing is Fed speak. So a lot of Fed speakers are coming out. Since the last meeting a couple weeks ago, there's been a lot of talk about the Fed cutting their first rate cut in months, in a few years, in September's meeting. And what are they going to say? Are they following with that? There's a lot of economists who are saying, hey, you got to cut rates in September. We're starting to see signs of weakening economy. Get in front of this. Don't play catch up, which the Fed typically does. So will they cut rates this week? What will or in September? What will the Fed members say? A lot of attention will be paid to those voting Fed members to see if they're on board with potentially the first rate cut in a long time in September. So we're really floating into Wednesday. Wednesday's a big day with that inflationary report come out. And obviously, if something happens in the Middle East, those are the two main things that are going to impact rates this week. We'll be watching it very closely, floating into whatever happens into the data on Wednesday, locking if we see a change. If you have any questions on rates on the market, please let me know. If you know somebody can benefit from this video, please forward it to them. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Have an awesome, productive week. We'll talk to you on Friday. Bye-bye.